receiving yards in 3 of the last 5 games. Titans give up the 5th most receptions to and 5th most receiving yards to opposing tight ends as well. And so, boy, oh boy, I'm going to go in that 100 to 114 range. I'm tempted by the 85 to 99, to be honest with you. But you know what? I'm going to go 100 to 114. That's the range I'm going in.
Big game for Travis Kelce.
Big game for Travis Kelce coming.
Yep. As 12.5-point favorites over the Titans. My one is Derrick Henry rushing yards, and they are my Tennessee Titans because I'm all in Derrick Henry Offensive Player of the Year, 30-1 on BetMGM. I think he should be plus 500 and the second favorite behind Tyreek Hill. His rushing yards bands, so 75 yards or less, all the way up to 125 plus. I'm all in King Henry. Let's go 125 plus. Don't care about game script as huge underdogs. They just run the ball anyway. He's game script agnostic at this point. 28 carries each of the past 3 weeks minimum. He's just back to being, I think, the best pure runner in the game. I thought Derrick Henry was done, so I have to hold my hand up there. I didn't think he was going to be any good. I thought that there was too much wear and tear on his body.
After the first 2 games, it looked like it, and then he turned it around and came back.
I'm sorry I doubted you, King Henry, and give me 125 plus yards this week. Now, while we're talking about that game, just quickly, what are we doing with the Chiefs' backfield this week?
Hopefully we're ignoring all of it. I mean, it's a tough matchup against Tennessee, and it's going to be a 3-headed monster. It's going to be a little bit of the hot hand here. We'll see if Pacheco can continue the momentum he had from the 49ers game. But again, he played mostly when that game was out of hand. I want to avoid this situation if I can.
Yep. I think that there is a chance that Isaiah Pacheco is the guy, just if they are winning by lots late and they are 12.5-point favorites. He is the fourth quarter running back with a big lead for the Chiefs, so he might be able to get into the end zone there.
Unless listen, there are a lot of running backs on bye this week, and Jonathan Taylor might be banged up. So you may be desperate enough that you got to start one of these guys, but hopefully you're not. And they're all just sort of touchdown-dependent flexes.
Yep. No Chubb, no Saquon, no CMC, the list goes on. All right, let's jump into what's on tap.
No Najee Harris. Our generation's Trent Richardson.
Does that matter anymore? Yeah, poor Najee Harris. All right, let's start off with the Packers game against the Lions. Can Aaron Rodgers get back on track against the league worst defense in the Detroit Lions?
I mean, a little bit, right? I mean, I'm at QB 13, which, isn't that high, but at least it's high for Aaron Rodgers, who on the year, is QB 22 on a points per game basis, right? He was barely a top 20 quarterback last week against the Bills. If there's positive, the Lions have allowed at least 18 fantasy points to 5 different quarterbacks this season. They're a bottom 5 rush defense, bottom 5 pass defense, they're bottom 5 scoring defense since week 5. Pick a stat, they're bad at it. And so Rodgers, who tends to play very well against the Lions, I think could be a viable high-end QB2 in this one.
Okay, Romeo Doubs, who made the best catch of anyone last weekend in the end zone. Is he a viable wide receiver 3?
Yeah, look, I think so. I'm at the low end here, and we'll see if Alan Lazard comes back for this one. But look, last week he had an 18%. He had 7 targets on an 18% target share, which is what he's got on the season, right? And so, 7 targets, and Lions struggle against the deep ball, right? They've allowed the most receptions of passes 15 yards or more down the field. So Romeo Doubs comes in at wide receiver 28 for me this week. Okay,
your man Robert Tonyan, is he a viable streaming option against the vaunted Detroit defense?
Sure. He's a touchdown-dependent tight end, like they all are.
All right. Yeah. No.
Again, it's a good matchup.
He's the new Irv Smith. All right. The big question, DeAndre Swift, who Lions coach Dan Campbell said is still not fully healthy, dealing with a shoulder, dealing with an ankle. Do you still, if he's active, you still have to start him against the Packers defense?
Just go to the upside. I mean, again, I am as running back 18, which is much lower than, normally a fully healthy DeAndre Swift would be a top 5 fantasy running back. But you can run on the Packers. Green Bay, since week 5, bottom 5 in terms of rush defense. They've given it the second most fantasy points per 2 running backs since week 5 as well. So, over the last 4 weeks, this is a team you can run against.
Yep.
And so hopefully Swift a little bit healthier, who, scored last week, should get more run here. Comes in at running back 18 for me.
Jamaal Williams basically must start with the Swift situation with that Packers rushing defense.
Agreed.
Yep. Okay, let's jump to what should have been a blockbuster matchup between the Bucs and the Rams. Now is certainly not. 2 teams struggling for their playoff lives. You're trusting Tom Brady one more week against the Rams defense.
I don't want to.
I think you have to, though.
Probably. I'm a QB 12, right? I mean, listen, he has struggled, obviously. But if there's a positive here, he leads the NFL in passing yards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just the touchdowns. As you sit here and look at it on your screen here, over the last 3 games, he's throwing it 40 times a game at least. He has his lowest passing yardage total is 243. 243, 290, 325 against the Ravens. That was the Thursday night game. So he's had 10 days to prepare for this. Now, the Rams defense is really good, right? Only one quarterback has 16 or more than 16 fantasy points against the Rams so far this year, and that was Josh Allen in week 1, where he ran a ton. So I think he's kind of a mid-tier QB this week. Again, he comes in at QB 12 for me this week. So outside my top 10, but a viable higher-end QB2 if you're looking around.
Incredible that he's leading the league in passing yards, but his QB 14 in fantasy. And he hasn't even had his bye yet. That's not per game.
He just doesn't have. He does no touchdowns.
Yep.
At some point, we think positive regression's coming.
Yep. Quickly, is the season over for the loser of this game between the Bucs and the Rams?
Yes.
Yes. I will say.
Well, maybe not the Buccaneers because their division's so bad.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Rams done if they lose this, but if the Bucs, if they lose, having to chase the Falcons, the Saints, I think they can still be alive. They still got a lot of upside.
When we come back, the definitive Raheem Mostert interview right here on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay? Respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.